Happy Oscars morning. Welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you. My friend Lex is here as well. Lex, what's up? Happy Oscars morning.
Happy Oscars morning.
Yeah, if you celebrate, we celebrate. We celebrate. I was up. I was ready. I'm on my like fourth cup of coffee, and I've been up for like an hour. So that's how you
Oh,
can know I was
wow.
ready. We're gonna go through these nominees, at least all the major ones. We'll touch on as many of them as we can within the next hour or so, and just kind of react to them, Lex, and what we thought. There were definitely some surprises this morning. A couple in particular. I did actually pretty good on my predictions, though. So there were a couple that were surprises, but I kind of predicted the surprises, and then there were a couple that I was just like, "What?" What about you overall? Like, did the show kind of stick to kind of what you thought, or were there some where you were kind of like shocked?
I think I'm kind of like you, where for the most part, I was like, yeah, I saw that coming. There were a few that we'll get into. I woke up and put on my Lucky Glinda shirt today.
Yeah, well,
That
that did well.
I,
It worked. It
it
worked.
did. I was like some of those where I was kind of on the fence, where I was like, which I know we'll get into the like specifics in a bit, but on whole, it was all pretty predictable. But then a few like whoa
Yeah, yeah,
moments,
and
yeah.
the ones that were whoa, we'll talk about. But they're actually, I was pleased that ended up happening. I didn't predict it, but let's
Hmm.
start with one that was fairly predictable, although that last spot, that fifth spot, was a seesaw between Daniel Craig and Sebastian Stan for the last like month. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people, including myself, left Daniel Craig in the five. He missed the BAFTA, which was just a little over a week ago, and I guess that hurt him enough because voting wasn't over yet when he missed that. And Sebastian Stan's been kind of on this rise. He had two really great performances this year, this one and A Different Man. I know we talked about it last time that he's not, your favorite actor, but were you surprised by? I was surprised that Craig missed this. I thought, he was pretty much solidified the whole season, and I think he probably lost this in like maybe the last week of voting. Like it was probably like a last minute swap out. What do you think?
Yeah. I excuse me, this dry air that we have in North Carolina right now is taking my voice
No, it's
away.
rough. It's rough.
But I was my best friend loves Sebastian Stan, so I was happy for her. And it was I had the same where I think it was kind of that fifth spot was up for grabs. I chalked Daniel Craig not getting into BAFTA up to the fact that I feel like The Apprentice is probably a better suited film for international audiences.
True.
And so I thought maybe that was
True.
why maybe the BAFTAs were a little more receptive of it. I'm not seeing The Apprentice. I don't think it's just where we are right now. I'm just
We
never
yeah
going to be
we
in the
talked about
headspace
that
for
on
that.
our yeah no we talked
Um,
about that on our Globes discussion too. I mean it's a
yeah.
great movie, it's a great performance, but it's also, and honestly that's another reason why I thought he might struggle to get in is because of that mentality.
Hmm.
Like it's not
Yeah.
palatable for everybody, So,
But at the same
but he
time, I'm
did.
also kind of like, even though I'm never going to be in the headspace to watch that movie, at the same time, I am kind of happy that he got nominated because of like the very same reason why I'm not going to watch the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get it because of the courageous, taking it on. I think
Hmm.
I've still got Timmy winning this category. We can move on to the next one. Who do you think the winner here is? I mean, a lot of people say Brody, but I'm sticking with Timmy.
Nothing would throw me more if it was to me. I loved A Complete Unknown. It was maybe
Yeah,
my favorite movie of the year.
yeah,
I,
that's a good one.
I think it's going to be Adrian Brody. I don't want it to
Yeah,
be, but I think it's going to be.
no, I hear that. I think it's definitely a two-headed race, though. Actor in a supporting role. This one was my heartbreak of the morning because I don't know if you've been watching. Well, you're not on Twitter now. I forgot about that. But I've been definitely lobbying for Clarence Macklin all season. I had him at
Mm.
my number one in my predictions up until like the SAG nominations. For like 2.5 months, I didn't move him because I refused to because I thought he was the best supporting actor. Period. But I went ahead and kept him here as well, and of course he missed for Jeremy Strong. Another performance in The Apprentice, and Strong's may actually be a little bit stronger, no pun intended, than Stan's in that movie. It's just such a good transformative performance. The other four, I think everybody pretty much knew that they were going to get in. So it was another situation where that fifth spot was kind of up for grabs between Macklin, Strong, and a couple others too, actually, that were in the mix. Let's see, I got my predictions right here. Because also people were saying maybe Denzel, who had a shot early in the season and then kind of fell off, And then out of nowhere, Jonathan Bailey came up from your beloved Wicked, and they thought maybe a wild card if they
Um,
really, really loved Wicked.
I would be sobbing right
I mean,
now
it would be
if that
crazy. Yeah, you wouldn't
happened.
even be able to do the stream right now, you know.
No.
But yeah, what do you think of this category? I mean, I think Kieran Culkin's a sweeper this season, in my
Hmm.
opinion. But I mean, the nominated five. Did you expect to see somebody like Macklin here, or is the strong pretty obvious?
I thought Jeremy Strong was going to pull it off. And I knew it was going to be at the detriment to Denzel Washington,
And
who
Clarence
gave one of,
Macklin.
and Clarence Macklin. But Denzel just gave one of my favorite performances of the year. I
I know
love
he
his
was so
performance in
hammy in that,
Gladiator
man.
2. He's
So
so
hammy in
good.
that.
I love that cast. So it kind of pains me to say this, but he kind of carries that movie.
He does, yeah.
But I do think that, again, not seeing The Apprentice, but I'm not necessarily mad. I'm not mad at The Apprentice getting nominations.
No, and what's interesting about it getting nominations this morning, and it's been getting shouted out throughout award season in various circles. I think it's going to put more eyeballs on the film, and what people will realize is that at the end of the day, that's going to piss Trump off because it's not a
Hmm.
pro-Trump movie, and it doesn't paint him in a favorable light. So I understand why Trump's going to be everywhere the next 4 years. So if you're not on that spectrum and you don't like that, you're not going to want to spend your free time watching somebody portray that. You know what I mean? I get it,
Right.
but I think it's going to get a lot more people. I think it's on demand now too. So I think a lot more people are going to end up seeking out The Apprentice. And if for nothing else, those two performances are definitely well deserved of nominations. I just really, really, really thought the Academy was going to show up for Sing Sing today, and it did get a couple. I think it got screenplay and of course Coleman
Hmm.
for leading actor, but Macklin missed unfortunately. So here we go. This category for actress in a leading role was a little bit up for grabs too, and people kept leaving your girl Cynthia Erivo out, but she did end up getting in, which I predicted. I thought she hasn't missed all season,
Hmm.
and I think people. I mentioned this on my last video, but I think people were comparing her to Margot Robbie and Barbie last year because Margot Robbie was, sweeping in the Academy morning and she was blanked. But of course, that didn't happen here. Cynthia gets in. So this was the five I predicted. I'm thrilled that Fernanda Torres rode the momentum from the Golden Globe win to get in here. The Marianne Jean Baptiste. I don't know if you can necessarily
Hmm.
call that a snub, but she's the one that would have, if they'd had six, it would have been great because then she could have been in here too.
Hmm.
What do you think of this group of five ladies here?
Um, I know I said this on the Globes and stream, and I'll say it again. Carla Sofia Gascon is not a lead
I know.
performance.
It's a co-lead at best.
It's
Yeah.
it's co-lead at best, and the thing about it, it's a little hypocritical of me to say that because I would also argue that Glinda and Elphaba are co-leads in Wicked, so
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
I
And
get
a
it.
real pain. Eisenberg and
Hmm.
Culkin. It's all
Yeah,
over the place this
so
year. Yeah.
it is. I'll admit that it's just my own hypocrisy that I just don't like Amelia Perez, and I think it got nominated way more times than it should have today.
Yeah. Same here.
Um, but
But we knew
I
that
was
was going to happen.
right,
We knew. I
we
knew
knew
it.
it, saw it
Yeah.
coming. I'm happy to see Demi Moore here. I don't think she's gonna pull it off in the end. Thrilled to see Cynthia, even if I don't think she's gonna get it. Um, I think it's gonna probably go to Fernanda Torres, but this was another one of those categories that I feel like for so long it's just been, we threw Angelina Jolie in the mix for a minute. Like there was so many like it was one of the
Yeah.
more up in the air categories. So I'm not
It definitely was.
necessarily, yeah, I'm not necessarily surprised or necessarily upset. I'd love to see Demi Moore pull it off, just because I love the substance, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think I've got Demi Moore as the front runner right now to win, but I will tell you that they loved. We're going to get to it in a second, but they apparently loved "I'm Still Here." Like
Hmm.
I'm talking about nobody. I'm talking about people that make predictions in their trailer out in the middle of Iowa picked "I'm Still Here" to get into Best Picture. Like nobody knew that was going to happen. So because you already had that internet, because they do usually throw a bone to one international film, like
Hmm.
your Parasite or like they usually do that. But this year that was kind of a given that Amelia Perez was going to be in there, which it still
Right.
is. So now they have two, non-U.S. films in the 10 for Best Picture, which I think that's great, even though my prediction suffered. I think that's great because it's kind of showing that tide changing a little bit and the international influence that this body now has. And I loved I'm Still Here. I mean, it was like my number 12 or 13 of the year. I mean, it's such a powerful movie. She's great in it. So I'm Still Here was a huge winner today, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Let's see what we got next. So supporting actress, guys, I am vindicated. I am absolutely vindicated, Lex. Let me go to
Me
my
too.
predictions. I told you guys 2 weeks ago when I did my brainstorming session, which you can go back and watch that if you don't believe me. Some of my peeps that were at that session, I can see in the chat. I told you guys then Monica Barbaro was going to be nominated for supporting actress, and that A Complete Unknown was going to get a ton of nominations this morning, or at least overperform. And I think it got like seven, maybe 7 or 8. I also said it about Mangold. We'll get there in a second, but because of the momentum of that movie and Timothy Chalamet's kind of marketing of that film, on his own, really, and just carrying the flag for that movie out in the public eye, and it's just hit at the right time that everybody's talking about it, and there was just a tidal wave that was at the very top point of it coming down, and that was when voting was ending. And I think a lot of people cast their ballots for A Complete Unknown, and I think she is a perfect example as to why. She got in, and so did Felicity Jones, which was on the fence a little bit, which of course means Jamie Lee Curtis missed, which I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, she's my Laurie Strode, you know what I mean? I love her, but I don't think she belonged in the 5, so I'm
No.
somewhat thrilled that she missed this, which I know sounds bad, but I think that there were other actors that were more deserving. I would have put Qualley in over Jones, but nonetheless, this is the 5 we have. I know you love Ariana. What do you think here? Did you think Barbara? You thought Barbara was going to get in too, right?
I thought she was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love her performance in A Complete Unknown, and which is ironic because I'm not really a Joan Baez fan, but I love her performance, and I loved A Complete Unknown. I know a lot of people are saying that it's basically Walk the Line 2.0.
Yeah, I disagree with that though. I
Right.
think it's the music biopic, but it's just different. Like it doesn't really tell you anything about like his childhood or his.
And that's why I love it. It's just like
Yeah.
it's just a little vignette of this really formative time in American music. I honestly, I'm not necessarily mad about Isabella Rossellini. I know we talked about this on the Globe stream of like she just doesn't have a lot of screen time.
Yeah,
She
like
makes the
2 scenes.
most of what she has, but
Yeah.
I honestly would swap. And as much as I don't like Amelia Perez, and I really don't, I do think Zoe Saldana is giving a good performance in it. So I think if you swapped Felicity Jones for someone, my mind just went completely blank because I've not
Selena
had coffee
Gomez,
yet.
Margaret Qualley.
Not Margot Qualley, thank you. Not Selena
Yeah,
Gomez.
Qualley,
Love Selena Gomez, but not her in this movie.
Yeah.
If you swapped one of them for Margaret Qualley, I think you'd have a perfect lineup.
I do too, actually. Yeah, I think that would have been awesome. I had Jamie Lee Curtis in my predictions just because I felt like her campaigning for Pamela Anderson and for the movie, and it had that similar feeling that we got with To Leslie with Andre Riseborough. It was really indie, and it was really like grassroots feeling. And then, of course, she's a prior nominee for Everything Everywhere, and they love her. I mean, she just lost her house in the fire, and I mean, they just love her out there in L.A. I just thought that her influence was going to kind of push her over their edge, and maybe even Pam Anderson, honestly. I had her as a long shot to possibly get in this morning, too, but of course she didn't. I love
Did
this
The
group.
Last Showgirl get any nominations?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think it did, yeah.
No. I mean, it was only really, and that was another thing that hurt it, is that it wasn't a broader, potentially nominated film because it didn't have any of those craft wows that would get it into some crafts or screenplays or whatever to push that value of the performances up. I love this 5. I mean, I just love that I'm vindicated in my Barbaro swing because everybody's like, you're crazy. Like, she's not going to get in. Like, it's going to be Ellis
She was getting
Taylor or Selena Gomez.
yeah.
And I'm like, they're going to love this movie. And it's literally hitting. Now, if this movie had come out in the summer, she wouldn't have gotten nominated.
No.
It's hitting at the right time. And frankly, depending on when voting ends for the wins, which I'm not sure when that is, I think they have a couple weeks to vote. I mean, we could be surprised on Oscars night with some complete unknown wins. We'll just fly through a couple of these other ones. I didn't watch any of this short, so we'll kind of skip over those. But animated feature, this is the 5 I predicted. I was really excited that Flow got in, that Memoir of a Snail got in, because if one of those had not gotten in, we would have probably had Moana 2, which I did not like.
Yeah. No.
It was not good. I mean, it made, billions of dollars and kids love it and everything, but it's not one of the best animated films of the year. This is a good five. This is the five I predicted and the five that I'm happy with. Are you want to make any predictions about who might win this? Do you think we could get a underdog Flow win here, or do you think this is a Disney trophy again?
I think
Wild
the
Robot 2.
safe choice is Inside Out 2, but I think the sleeper is Flow, and I ultimately think that's who's going to pull it off. If you're
Okay.
asking me, I'd give it to the Wild Robot because I love the Wild Robot, but I think
I'm
it's
gonna
going to go to
leave the
Flow.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave the Wild Robot at my number one to win, just because it also got some text that I didn't expect today, like score. I think it
It
got,
did.
and there was something else it got too that I didn't expect that we'll get to here in a second. But yeah, I think they love the Wild Robot. It got multiple nominations today, which would lead me to believe that when they vote for it, they'll give it the votes. It would be so great to see Flo win an award like this, though. I mean, no
Yeah,
dialogue, this
I
kind of
loved it.
unique, yeah, uniquely hand drawn, mixed with digital. I mean, just my kids, I have a 5-year old and an 11-year old. They were enraptured by it, and I thought to myself
Hmm.
when I was reading reviews about it that it wasn't going to keep their attention because there's no talking in it.
Hmm.
And it seemed pretty apocalyptic and kind of like the summary of it, which I guess kind of is. But they loved it. I mean, they loved it. We have a black cat, and they keep calling the cat Flo, and I mean, they love it.
Oh,
So I think that is a movie that does have a mass appeal that could upset. It could be the underdog. Cinematography was pretty. Let me see what I had because I didn't have Maria getting in here. Maria got some mentions today that I didn't expect. It's a beautiful film,
it's gorgeous.
so I'm not mad at it, but it's just crazy that Angelina got left in the dust with this movie. But
That was pretty surprising.
yeah, I had all of these. I had all of these with the exception of Maria. I had Conclave in place of that.
Mm.
Also thought The Girl with the Needle, an international film, had great cinematography too. That I was crossing my fingers for.
I
What do
thought
you? I mean, this is
Challengers.
Nosferatu, right? So it's got to
Yeah,
be.
I mean, I thought Challengers was going to sneak in for cinematography. Was pretty surprised it didn't. I don't. Again, I just really don't like Amelia Perez, and this is one of those like I don't. I don't really see the appeal with cinematography on that one. The Brutalist, like all these, I also like Maria. I had mixed feelings about the movie, but thought it was visually stunning.
Oh yeah,
Um, my personal, like, I'm pulling for of these. I'm pulling for Nosferatu, and I think that's ultimately going
yeah,
to be the one that gets it.
yeah. I mean, I think. Yeah, I hope so. I really do. I think you can make an argument for that for the Brutalist for Dune certainly. I also had Dune in my predictions. A lot of people left that one out. They're all. I mean, they're all so beautiful. I mean, Maria too. I mean, they're all so beautiful. So let's see. When we go over to costumes, no real what I would call surprises. Except I didn't have Gladiator 2. I had Gladiator 2 blanking this morning. Not no offense. I know you love that
No,
movie,
no,
but I felt like just in the awards conversation the last month or so, it had kind of disappeared and
yeah,
it wasn't making some guilds that you would think it would make. And so I was like, well, the Academy's probably going to follow suit, and they probably just didn't really like Gladiator 2, or they compared it, you know, to the original, which in my opinion is not nearly as good at, or something like that. But it did make a couple categories that it was kind of in the running for. One of them was costumes. So no real surprises here, other than that one went in for me for Dune. I had Dune in that spot.
mm.
What do you think? What do you think the best costume movie here is, though? Because this is a good group. It's kind of hard to pick, honestly.
It is really hard. Like I think Wicked's ultimately going to win it. Just if
I
for
mean, that's true.
nothing else, the like pure mass amounts of costumes that had to go into that with the shiz scenes in the Emerald City, and you've got like Ariana Grande's like stunning bubble dress.
Yeah.
I think ultimately that's going to pull it off. I'm thrilled that Gladiator 2 is an Oscar nominated film, so I'm
I
happy
mean,
to see
right,
it here.
right.
Um,
I think it got into one other one too, didn't it? Maybe sound, I think, or something like that.
no, it didn't. It didn't get into
Oh,
sound.
okay. We'll
Um,
see in a second. I thought it got two this morning, but I could be wrong. I'm looking at it in real time right after they ended. So,
yeah,
um,
but I wouldn't like I'm honestly, and I wasn't even that crazy about this movie, but I personally would pick Nosferatu.
yeah,
Um, didn't love that movie, but like if the visuals weren't some of the most stunning I've ever seen on screen.
yeah. I would say that. I would say these all have a a shot for sure. A complete unknown, I did predict it, but it's also a little surprising because when you look at
Yeah.
the other ones, they're much more elaborate and like time period esque. You know what I mean? And a complete unknown is
Right.
basically like some, vagabonds in the '60s. So you could get
Right.
those clothes at a thrift store today if you walked into it. So some people were like, it's not going to make it for that reason, but I'm glad it did. I predicted it. I love that movie, and like I said, I thought that movie was going to overperform this morning, which it did. Speaking of which, another one that I predicted that a lot of people told me I was crazy was James Mangold for Complete Unknown. He's coming off the DGA win just a week ago, or
Hmm.
nomination just a week ago, and I'm so glad that Coralie was not the snub for him.
Yeah.
But also, I'm a little sad for Edward Berger. This is the second time in like 3 years that one of his films has gotten multiple, like 5+ nominations, including text, including performances, and he hasn't gotten director. It happened for All Quiet on the Western Front, and now it happened for Conclave. I put Mascot Bear's comment up on the screen there. I think that has something to do with it. I think the director's branch, for some reason, and I don't know what goes into that, but for some reason is not quite ready to anoint him enough votes to get him that nomination. But these are two movies that he's had that have been like hugely celebrated. I mean, like not
Hmm.
divisive at all. You know what I mean? Like just everybody's in an agreement that they're just like masterful films. And he's not getting the directing nom. It's just crazy. But I also knew it was going to happen for some reason. I just didn't see them giving it to him. And when Mangold got that DGA, that was when I was really like, okay, they're a complete unknown's about to like, just go crazy at the Oscars. So
Hmm.
this is my five. This is what I expected. I love that Coralie got in. That was so. I mean that was so great because that could have also been Berger, and then
Yeah.
and then she would have been snubbed. So are you happy with this five? Who's your winner in this category?
Um, on whole, I'm happy. I think my winner is Jacques. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Audard.
For Audard for Amelia Perez, because for whatever reason, um, the awards are just loving that movie. Um, I don't. I could also seeing it go to Brady Corbett for The
Yeah,
Brutalist.
yeah,
I
he's
think it's
my
going to
front
be a
runner.
toss up between one of those two. I'm thrilled to see Coralie here. I loved The Substance,
So good.
and we didn't need another year of all male directors. So as much
Nope.
as I love the Conclave, and Conclave was one of my favorite films of the year, and I
Yeah, we
love
talked about
Edward.
that.
And I love what Edward Berger did with it. But if I had to take anyone out for him, it would be for Amelia Perez, which we knew that one was getting in. So I'm
Yeah.
disappointed, but not necessarily surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to bash Amelia Perez on this stream because, frankly, that's what I've done on every other stream I've done. But I don't get it. I mean, I just don't get it. I'm not trying to be a hater. Some people have called me a hater online. I don't want to be a hater. I just don't get it. Like, I don't understand
Yeah.
the kind of industry love for this French film about a Spanish story that is supposed to have trans representation that I didn't feel like was sensitive to that community either. I don't know. I
Hmm.
just was not a huge fan of it. And on top of that, from a musical perspective, I didn't think the songs were really that great, with the exception of the ones that got nominated. I agree with El Mal. I think that's probably going to win.
Amal is
Um,
good.
but yeah,
Well, and
anyway,
I think for me, it's more that the fact that typically, and I've got multiple musical theater posters up here, so like I'm
yeah,
admittedly an insufferable theater kid, but you have such a well done musical film, and it's the fact that it's consistently beating that irks me. Whereas I feel like the music in Amelia Perez is what people who say they hate musicals think of when they think musical songs, right? And so it's more of just the Academy doesn't want to acknowledge musicals, but now suddenly are, just because for whatever reason. I don't know.
hmm
I don't want to be a hater either. I know you said you've bashed it on all your streams, but I've not been
yeah.
on all those streams, so I'll bash it for you. But it was not my favorite.
um, let's see what Danielle says here. She's happy with the nominations for I'm Still Here, but realistically, the substance should win. And I'd be happy with it. Direction should go to Coralie. I mean, I don't disagree. I mean,
I don't disagree either.
I'm just going to tell you guys right now, as a horror fan, and I've been covering the Oscars for a long time, since like the 90s, they do not nominate horror films. And they
Hmm.
especially do not nominate them for like top of the line prestigious categories. So the fact that we have it in director, actress, and picture, and really close to supporting actress if you think Quali was a near miss, is crazy.
Hmm.
That, along with the I'm Still Here love that we got this morning, and really Amelia Perez too, from like an international perspective, just shows you how different the Academy is now from even 5 years ago. And I think that's a good thing. I might not agree with all the choices they make, but I think that's a good thing to inject some like uniqueness to what we've been dealing with the Academy Awards for the last like 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
So
No, that was a
I
good
think I
perspective.
don't disagree. I think that's a good point, Danielle. And I mean nothing. I'm going to predict for director. I'm probably going to predict Corbet for The Brutalist,
Hmm.
at least as we're sitting here. But nothing would give me more jumping off of my couch moment than Coralie winning director. Oh my god,
Hmm.
on Oscars night for a horror movie, and I mean
Yeah.
a gross like body horror, bloody, ugly, like just in your face horror movie would be something nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, I'll just tell you right now. I'm going to skip. So documentary, I only saw of the ones nominated. I only saw No Other Land and Black Box Diaries. I think No Other Land is such a powerful film that deals with the Palestinian conflict that the importance of that film I think might push that to a win because it's probably like the most important topics of the ones that are nominated, at least that I'm familiar with. Have you seen any of these documentaries? Do you have a
I
favorite?
admittedly haven't seen these. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only seen the two. Black Box Diaries is really powerful too. I think that one's actually
Mm.
streaming right now on, it's like Max or something like that, but you can see that one on streaming. Um, Editing, I think that was my five. Let me pull up my predictions real quick. Honora, Conclave, Familiar Press. Yeah, Dune Part 2 missed for me in editing. I had Dune Part 2
Mm.
in there instead of The Brutalist.
Okay.
I thought they might not nominate The Brutalist for editing because it's 3.5 hours with an intermission.
Hmm.
And I thought they might go, you didn't edit it, so I'm not going to nominate it. I mean, I know that's a silly way to think, but I thought that a lot of people, and I had read that people weren't finishing the movie because it was too long and, the wildfires and everything. So um, that one did get in, though, and that was a lot of people's prediction. I don't think there's any, like, huge surprises here. I've seen all of these, and my vote for editing would probably go to Honora. I just love the frantic energy
Mm.
in that film, and it's going to depend on how much they like Honora, but that would be my pick personally. I don't know what I'm going to predict to win, but that would be my pick. Do you have a favorite in terms of editing with this five here?
Um, in terms of editing, I think I'll agree with you on Anora. Anora wasn't super high on my
Oh
list,
my
but I did.
God.
I know. I'm sorry.
Look at that. Did you see what Mascot Bear just said? Mascot Bear. I don't. Can somebody can you confirm that because I didn't know that. And if that's true, that oh wait a minute, that ties the record. I think. I don't think it breaks the record. I think didn't Titanic get 13? I think it ties the record.
Did Titanic get 13 or did it get 12?
Is that the record?
Hang on. Hang on.
Somebody in
Live
the
fact
chat
checking.
Google that. Did Amelia Perez break the GD record this morning? What are we doing, guys? Oh my
No,
God,
no,
they
no, no,
love
no.
her.
Titanic got 14. I'm thinking of something
That's the
different.
record.
Okay, so that's the record.
Okay. Whew. I mean,
Yeah.
13 is a lot, but I was like, please don't be the record breaker. Oh my God,
13
what are we
too
doing?
many.
Okay.
That is insane.
So, Substance for the Win. Yeah, the Substance was released. Yeah, exactly right. That's what I said. If this movie had come out a few years ago, 5 years ago, I mean, and what's beautiful about that too, though, is Coralie Farja, Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, when they started filming The Substance and they read that screenplay, nobody was like, "We're making this movie to win an Academy Award."
Yeah.
Nobody thought that, and I'm talking about people involved in the project, thought that would be an Academy nominated picture because it's just not. So that's what makes that awesome too, is because of the level of dedication and craft that went into the film. It's like when you do the right thing when nobody's looking, right? It's a
Hmm.
very similar kind of approach to that, and that's how you can tell that they really, you know, like respected what they were doing, regardless of what the subject matter was, and it wasn't
Yeah.
for awards. And I think it's great to rain down nominations and recognition on a production like that, because you have some productions, and I love The Brutalist. I think it's a good movie, but you look at that movie and you think the opposite. You think, oh, that's Oscar bait. That's what
Yeah.
people will say. With a movie like The Brutalist, you're definitely not thinking that when you see The Substance. You're not thinking, oh, this is Oscar
Mm-mm.
bait. You're thinking they're going to hate this. So I think that's great. It was a record for international film, which I kind of expected because I think the record was only like 10 before that or something like that. So that's not as surprising. Again, I don't agree with it. I don't want to bash it all morning, but yeah, so almost tied the record with Titanic for man. Wow. Imagine if the Wild Robot wins. Yeah, that'd be a
If the
trip.
Wild Robot wins, I'll cry for days. I
I think
love
it.
the
I
Wild
think it
Robot.
might. I think it might. People love it, and it's definitely been seen more than a movie like Flow. So
Yeah.
I think it could. Makeup and hairstyling and the score. We had a comment in the chat. Let's see if I can find it. I don't remember who it was. I'm sorry. Here we go. It was Jamie Isaac. Said that he or she is shocked that Challengers got snubbed for score. Me too.
Me 3.
Yeah, I had it in my 5. I don't know if shock's the right word, but I'm definitely disappointed. You know, Reznor Ross do beautiful work, but whenever they do that high energy, like rave type score, which they've done before, they Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, etc. They don't. The Academy doesn't like that shit. You know, they're still
Hmm.
too old, if you will, and I'm almost 50, so I'm not talking crap. But they don't typically go for that kind of stuff. They go for what you see here on the screen. I mean, let me make it a little higher up here. But they go for this kind of shit. You know,
Yeah.
it's a little more classical in tone, a little more palatable across the age brackets. You know, same thing with song because I had compress repress in there. We can just talk about both of these real quick, which was
Mm.
also from Challengers. And I was dumb. I just thought that they're gonna nominate this because it's so hip and fresh and different. It was so different from everything else that's in the category, but I was wrong. They didn't. We kind of got the expected here. Wild Robot's a nice surprise though for score.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a
talk
beautiful
about talk
score.
about these real quick. I'm gonna pull up my predictions.
Yeah. I if there's any one, and this is kind of ironic coming from me, like to be such a Wicked stan, if there's anyone that I would actually take out, though I haven't heard the Barilla score, so can't really
Mm.
comment on that. But
You haven't heard that one number? It's like bam, bam, bam. You
I
haven't heard
probably
that one?
have on I probably
Yeah, it's in
have.
the trailer and shit.
um,
But yeah, it's like
yeah. Well, Anna Amelia Perez. I'm really not trying to be negative on
no, I know,
Amelia
but it
Perez.
got nominated for everything
Um,
under the sun. So
yeah, but the thing with Wicked score is that I think it does kind of toe a very interesting line with original score where it was original scoring produced for the film that's not in the show, but so much of that is kind of rooted in what already existed in the musical theater score. Um, so while yes, it is technically original and gorgeous, and I love Stephen Schwartz, I would put Challengers in over it.
hmm I could see
But
that.
for song, how many years has this smear campaign against Selena lived?
Yeah,
Oh no.
I saw that. Yeah,
Um,
I mean, a
I
lot of
love
people thought she could
Selena.
sneak in there, but she didn't. Yeah,
I
I
love
just feel
Selena,
like
just not in that movie.
I do feel like in Amelia Perez though they did love it enough that I would not have honestly been shocked had she gotten in. The
No.
only thing that I think, let me put it this way: if Zoe had been in lead like she was supposed to be, or
Hmm.
if Zoe hadn't been like the dominant kind of like performance that was taken away from that movie, Selena would have gotten nominated.
Yeah.
I don't think necessarily she should have based on her performance, but she would have, seeing how much they loved it. But there was two actresses competing for those votes, and
Hmm.
Zoe was, a lot better, frankly, and a lot more prominent in the movie because
Right.
she's a lead in it. So I'm not surprised Selena missed on that, on the grounds of that, but I think she could have easily gotten in based on their love for Amelia Perez. So she was a near miss. I mean, I
Yeah.
guarantee you she was probably 6 or 7 in the voting.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say, how many years is this for Diane Warren's Street?
I don't know about years, but I had read the other day that this is her 15th nomination, and she's not going to win for this because nobody's seen it.
No, because she never does win. That's the thing is, I
I mean,
think,
why do they keep?
like, at
Yeah,
what point do we stop this inside joke with Diane Warren?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean,
I've
at this
never.
point, I feel like she should get on a call with her publicist in the academy and be like, guys, unless there's a shot of me winning this, please stop. I can't come out to this award show every year. Just sit there.
Listen, on the flip
Um,
side of that, though, I think that if you really want your film promoted in the Academy, get Diane Warren to write a song, because some of the movies that have gotten nominated for her alone is kind of insane. Because
um,
I feel like this year was kind of a weak year for original song, though. Like there
was
weren't
it?
any. Like last year we had the
Yeah,
Barbie songs, and
yeah,
I feel like every year there's a song where you're like, ah, that one, or even like,
yeah.
nothing is really like stuck. And I am a little surprised, which I've read that this is going to be happening in the second movie, which I have mixed feelings on, if that's the smart move, where I'm a little surprised Wicked didn't try to throw in at least one original song to kind of sneak in the
Yeah, I
way
think they're
that
going to do it
most musical films do.
Yeah, I think they're going to do it in the next film. That's what I heard too.
Yeah.
Ariana singing an original. I mean, forget it. She's nominated.
Cynthia
So
singing an
I mean,
original.
are
I'm a
they in it
little
together, or
worried.
is each of them have a song? I'm not
I
sure.
read that each of them have a song.
Oh
And
wow.
that's
Okay.
what
Yeah.
makes me
So.
worried is I'm worried that they did such a good job with part 1. I'm a little worried part 2 is going to be overkill, but we'll have to
Mm-hmm.
see.
Um, I loved Elphaba's comment there. Wicked won the box office achievement of the Globes.
You sure
That's
did,
hilarious.
Alphaba. Good
Yeah,
job.
we have that to go on. Yeah. All right, let's look at Best Picture. Have you seen I'm Still Here, the Brazilian?
I have not.
I saw a
I've,
screener for it a couple months ago, and when I saw it, and this is back in like November, when I saw it, I was like, man, that because I cried in it, and I don't cry in every film, you know. It was a really like powerful film, and I have this running sheet for my predictions, and back in November, like right after Thanksgiving, I put Fernanda Torres in my 10. I put her like 9 or 10, just because I was like flabbergasted by that performance, and I didn't even know who she was prior to that movie. I started kind of looking up other stuff she's done. It was just such a good performance. Then fast forward like a month and a half, and she wins the Golden Globe for drama.
mm-hmm.
And now she's in the conversation for everybody. And fast forward, she got nominated this morning for Best Actress, but the movie got nominated for Best Picture. So you've got 2 international films in the 10 for
Mm-hmm.
Best Picture, which is fairly rare. I mean, you had your Zone of Interest last year. I mentioned Parasite in 2018. Like, they're starting to do it more and more often, but I don't think it's ever been multiple films. I'll need to be fact checked on that, but I don't think it's ever been more than one at a time, at least that I remember off the top of my head. This is a great 10, though. This is a really good 10. I didn't have I'm Still Here, and I didn't have Nickel Boys in. You know, we've already talked about our less than stellar fandom for Amelia Perez, but we knew it was going to make it nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a great 10. I had Sing Sing in, which we've already talked about. Sing Sing
Mm-hmm.
underperformed today, which sucks. But I had Sing Sing and A Real Pain in. I thought A Real Pain
Mm.
with the PGA and the WGA was going to be enough to, catapult that into like 9 or 10. And then Sing Sing, which is kind of wishful thinking. I did the same thing with Clarence Macklin. I figured if I was going to take some swings with my predictions, it was going to be at the behest of Sing Sing, and frankly, it was.
Sure.
I mean, we knew Coleman was getting in, but that was about, I think, adapted screenplay. But other than that, that was all it got.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think of the 10 for Best Picture this year? How you feeling? Who's the front? I mean, I know you love Wicked, but objectively speaking, who's going to win this? You think?
Yeah. As much as I love Wicked, it's not winning. I worry it's going to be The Brutalist.
You think?
I think it's either going to be The Brutalist or Amelia Perez.
Yeah, there you go.
Which, side
Let's
note,
just say
I
it.
don't know.
Let's just say it. I mean, they love it.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know if anyone else caught it. At one point when Bowen Yang was doing the announcements, he called Amelia Perez Amelia in Paris. I don't know if anyone else caught that.
I did.
But that
actually.
was my favorite moment of the announcements. My personal pick is either Wicked, The Substance, or A Complete Unknown. I think The Substance would be probably the most iconic win of all time. They really do.
It's getting to be too much for her.
This is what I'm saying. Is like it's just a big inside joke. It's just the biggest inside joke.
Mascot Bear. They did give her the honorary Oscar. Did you see that? They gave her one because they're like, we got to give. I mean, she's got to have something on her shelf. This is crazy.
Or you just move on. It's like she's writing these movies, these songs for like Hallmark movies, and they're like,
it's like her and Meryl Streep competing for who can go to the show without an award every year. You know?
Yeah,
At least Meryl's
exactly.
won. So
exactly.
yeah.
I will
Go
say.
ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I was a little surprised to see Nickel Boys sneak in. I think it got adapted screenplay. But it's so weird because I didn't know, because I got a screener for that movie a long time ago. And so I saw it a while ago, and then I feel like it only just came in theaters. And I've only seen like that it's playing at my local movie theater, but I'm not seeing any ads for it. So
yeah, it was a late rollout. Yeah.
A late rollout, not a lot of marketing. So I didn't have high hopes for it. I wasn't I didn't dislike Nickel Boys, but I also didn't love it either. I felt kind of neutral on it.
You know,
Um,
I'll just comment on that. I mean, Nickel Boys is one of those movies that my son was asking me what it's about because it was coming up when we were in the car the other day, and like I think Nickel Boys is one of those films that there's no way if you love movies you're not going to respect it. Like you will
yeah,
absolutely see it and you'll go, "This is beautiful. This is a well crafted, well made film. Probably easily one of the best of the year." It's if you hit mute on it and you just watch it, it's just a
yeah,
spectacle to see. The story and the narrative of the film was a little hard for me to be invested in because of the craft stuff. Like I just had a
agreed,
hard time. I had a hard time focusing on the story that was taking place. Now I
agreed.
want to rewatch it. I'm really excited to rewatch it. So that now that I kind of, because I didn't know about the camera angles and the POV, I didn't know any of that until I started watching it, and
Mm,
so it just kind of took me. It was like I was kind of when you stand up too fast and you're kind of like stumbling a little bit. That's kind of how it felt, and it was hard for me to grab on to the narrative of the characters and what they were going through. But
yeah,
looking at it and the way it was made and directed, and I mean, no argument. I mean, it's easily one of the best looking films of the year for sure. I'm just
agreed.
excited to rewatch it. That's all.
Yeah, no, and I probably will too. And this is one of the first year, the only one I haven't seen. No, I'm missing two. I still haven't seen The Brutalist. I tried to watch it and I couldn't finish it.
Yeah, I mean, I heard
And
that a lot. I mean,
mhm,
it kept me enraptured. I mean,
mm,
I watched it. I watched it at home. I had a screener for it. I think I took a break, one break, and got something to eat or whatever. But I mean, I finished it, and you know, I was enthralled by it. I wanted to see it play out. I don't think it needed to be 3.5 hours, but I say that about every movie that's over 3 hours, just
yeah,
because I don't have time for it, with kids or whatever, work, But I mean, it's a beautifully made film. Brady Corbet went to pretty extensive lengths to make that movie what he wanted it to be, what his version and vision of that art piece was, and I think that's commendable. I think he's going to get director for that, but when it comes to picture, I think it's really a toss up between Conclave, The Brutalist, maybe Honora, and Amelia Perez. I think those are the four that it's really. And I've been saying Conclave, Lex, because I think Conclave is probably the movie of the bunch here that most of the members are at least like 3 or 4 on out of 10.
yeah,
They're not like this is my 10th worst movie of the year. Most of them. And some of these other ones, like The Substance, Nickel Boys, Honora, even because of the sex and whatever. I mean, some of those might be ranked lower, which would obviously hurt it in the preferential ballots and stuff. So I think it's one of those four. And right now, I've got Conclave winning, but
it would make me
I do
so
t-
happy.
I do take pause though since Berger didn't get nominated
Yeah,
for director. That
yeah,
could maybe not equal a Best Picture win because usually the director is nominated for whatever wins Best Picture, even if they don't win director. So it's something to think about. Any other categories you wanted to touch on here, or if anybody
I
in the
was just
chat
gonna
wants to
add
ask us about anything?
really. I was just gonna add really quickly on Best Picture. I do think what might happen um, is that Amelia Perez is going to pull off what, speaking you saying Edward Berger just made me think of it, what All Quiet on the Western Front did, where, and I think, what was the Alfonso Cuarón movie that was on Netflix?
Roma.
Roma, that it
Hmm.
did where I could see it. I think it's a shoe in for international or feature, and then it's not going to win Best Picture, which would
Open it
not be
for
great,
somebody
but
else.
yeah. So I mean, nothing would make me happier if it's Conclave. I just think it's. I have
I'm
this
gonna
weird
put out.
feeling
I
it's gonna
did
be The Brutalist.
I'll tell everybody to watch it too. Anybody that follows my channel, I did a live reaction when they were doing the announcements. I'm gonna put that out in a couple hours after I edit it and stuff. But when they were announcing international, I don't know if you noticed, but they announced "I'm Still Here" first, and they usually go in alphabetical order. They
Yeah,
didn't for that one. So when they
yeah.
started those announcements on my video, I'm like, Amelia Perez missed, and I'm like celebrating and shit. And then like two movies later, they were like Amelia Perez. So I don't know what I missed there as far as the alphabet and stuff. But anyway, it did get in for international. But initially, I was like, oh my god, it missed international. This is the greatest day ever. Which I feel bad for saying that, but that was how I felt in the moment. But any of these other categories you want to touch on? So we'll see. We talked about sound. Man, Dune Part Two is so good from a sound
I think it's gonna
standpoint.
win.
Yeah, this is
I think
another
it's gonna
one
win
where
sound.
Gladiator 2 could have shown up, but it didn't.
There's yeah. It could have shown up
Also,
in visual effects. I know those sharks weren't that great, but it had some really good effects.
and what about those monkeys, Lex? I
Yeah, the
mean,
monk. You know, listen, the monkeys
if
were
you do a split, if you do a
the
split screen with
sharks
the
were,
monkeys from that, yeah, a lot of
but
CGI monkeys this year.
a lot of CG. Bowen Yang made that joke when he
Yeah,
announced that he was like, "Oh, a lot of monkeys in that category." Um, oh, visual or better man, yeah, like
there
that's
you
a
go.
lot of monkeys.
Skylar told me that's why I didn't realize it.
Oh,
So
that
they
makes
do it by
sense.
country. So Brazil
Oh,
was first,
Brazil, yeah,
and he's France. So I didn't. But at the time, I was like, oh my god, it should be Amelia Perez on the screen, and it's not. And I didn't realize that they do it by country. So thank you for that, Skylar. Let's see. Out of all Aryadard's amazing films, this is his magnum opus. Wild. Yeah, he is a really well-respected French filmmaker, which I think is also helping Amelia Perez a little bit.
yeah,
Um, but I've been called a hater and stuff. I think the community as a whole, and when I say community, I mean like critical community, like film lovers, like Letterboxd, like that kind of thing, hate it. But the industry and people that work in movies love it, and it's just such a
yeah,
weird divide to me because usually those worlds kind of line up for the most part. So it's just such a strange divide. I mean, I've heard people on like TV shows and podcasts and stuff, and they're talking about their favorite things of 2024, and all these people that I love are saying Amelia Prest. I'm like, what am I? What is happening? But yeah, it's crazy that movie's getting so much love based on. I mean, I just didn't like it. I did predict Alien Romulus in sound and visual effects. It only got
mm,
visual effects, but I'm so glad that Alien Romulus and Fede Alvarez is a Oscar nominee. So I was really happy. That was like a small win for me. I would have loved for it to have gotten in sound too, because that was pretty phenomenal. You just feel like you're on that ship with those guys, especially when you're in the theater watching that. Any surprises with screenplay? I don't. September 5 for original. Yeah, I mean, sure. It's.
and and is this the only nomination September 5 got?
I think so.
That's what I
I
find so
think so.
interesting.
And
Um,
when I saw that, I thought because it wasn't getting anything. The other stuff that it
mhm,
was maybe in the race for. And when it got original screenplay, I was like, maybe we're looking at a situation screenplay film, and that's it.
yeah,
So I thought that it could happen, and the same thing would have been for A Real Pain. Well, no, we would have had Kieran Culkin, of course,
yeah.
um, but that didn't get in either. So as far as my predictions for original screenplay, the only one that I missed was All We Imagine Is Light for September 5.
Yeah, I was surprised that I don't think All We Imagine Is Light got any nominations,
It didn't, but
and
what really sucks
that
about
was
that
really surprising.
what really sucks about that is that could have very easily competed for the international feature this year, and India didn't
Yeah,
submit it. I think, to your point, if they're voting for Amelia Perez for picture, maybe it's not going to win international. I would much rather it win international than win picture.
yeah,
However, I definitely don't want it to win both. So
no,
I think I'm Still Here has a great chance now too because it's also in picture. So hopefully, and if All We Imagine Is Light had been an international, then you've got a literal toss up. Like you
hmm
literally just throw the balls up in the air and see what lands. Like you wouldn't know. Um, but they just didn't submit it, so I thought it might get a screenplay. I didn't think direct. I thought director was a long shot, even though it deserved it. But I thought it might get a screenplay mention here, which would have gone in for September 5. But otherwise, I had that predicted. And then for adapted, let me see. Conclave's going to win adapted. I would be shocked. It's a very like
yeah,
Aaron Sorkin-esque, multiple characters talking at the same time, pretty seamlessly. Like it's been winning, so across the board, or being nominated across the board. So I think
hmm
that's a pretty safe bet for that one. I was thrilled to see Sing Sing get in here,
yeah.
but this is the 5 I predicted, so no real surprises for me here. What about you when it comes to these screenplays? Conclave, right? It's got to be Conclave.
I think Conclave's gonna win adapted. I really struggle with original because
Yeah.
I worry that The Brutalist is going to be this year's Oppenheimer and just sweep. But
Really? Okay.
but I could be wrong. If it's not The Brutalist, I feel like Jesse Eisenberg might actually pull it off, and
Okay.
I think he might
Yeah, I mean
actually
that.
get it for Real Pain.
Yeah, I mean that. That's a really well-loved screenplay, and I think that is where Eisenberg gets most of the accreditation for A Real Pain. I agree with that. I mean, Kieran Culkin. Look, I'm just gonna go on record. I like Kieran Culkin. I like his performance. I think it's very, very good. I think it's definitely worthy of being in the 5 for supporting actor. I don't know if it's a performance where I go, that's a definite, well-deserved sweeper, which I think is
Yeah.
what we're in for. I don't think there's any competition in that category awards-wise, even though I think there's performances in that category, and even that didn't make that category that might be a little bit better. And also, I think he's a lead performance, which kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit in supporting.
Hmm.
But we have that in multiple shit going on this year with that. So the category fraud of it all. I wanted to point out Incheck's comment because I agree with this. Carla Sofia Gasson has made Oscars history as the first out transgender woman to be nominated in an acting category. Definitely a monumental thing, and then especially with what's going on right now, I think that is absolutely phenomenal.
Hmm.
That narrative and that kind of PC vision may actually help her in the voting to a win too. Um, Now that's in lead actress. We have a similar like Lily Gladstone situation because I think she's more supporting and Zoe's more lead. But whatever, I think that that could also help her in the voting too. Nonetheless, I think it's a very historical, monumental thing, and I had her predicted. I'm glad she got in. It would have looked really bad as a snub had she not gotten in, because then you
Hmm.
go, well, it must
Especially if
be
Zoe Saldana also got in.
right. Then you go, well, it must be because she's trans. I mean, what are
Yeah.
we doing here? You know, so I'm glad she got in. That would have been a rough PC PR moment for the Oscars if that had happened. So I'm glad she got in for sure, and
Yeah.
it's deserved. I mean, she gives a great performance in that movie, and so does Zoe.
Right.
Selena I wasn't as high on, but the other two I thought did well with what they had. I just didn't like the movie overall, but I'm glad she got in, and
Yeah.
definitely for the reason that Incheck mentioned there as well. Okay, Fernando Torres. I got a couple Brazil shout outs down here. I am so happy about that, guys. If you've been following my channel, if you've been watching my Oscar coverage, I have been praying for Fernando Torres and for Clarence Macklin. I got one of them. I got Fernando. She's in there. Well deserved. Lex, you got to see I'm Still Here. It's definitely one of the best of the year. I'm so thrilled it got nominated for picture. I think we can go ahead and wrap up with our like biggest takeaways from the morning. My biggest takeaway is I'm Still Here in picture, and also in international, of course. That's a big, big win for that international film, and more so, it speaks volumes to the body shifting. I talked about that a little bit more earlier. Like, it's just kind of like you can see the tides changing right before your eyes. It started really back, maybe a little bit before this, but it really started with Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, and it's kind of just slowly, we're riding that wave slowly to eventually we're going to be on the beach, and it's going to be a new world when it comes to Oscar nominations and wins, etc. It has a much more of an international influence, and the nominations this morning, you can kind of see that. The love for Emilia Perez, 13 nominations, if my boy in the chat was accurate there, is freaking crazy to me. But the international, love is real, and it's something that we have to take into account. The other big, big win, I think, for me personally, yes, but also for just the nominees in general, is a complete unknown.
Yeah.
Can anybody throw up how many complete? I think a complete unknown got 7, if I'm not miscounting, maybe even
That
8
sounds
this
right.
morning. But Monica Barbaro, even though I predicted it, I was still kind of shocked, and I'm so glad she's in.
Yeah.
She deserved it for Joan Baez, but she hasn't really hit anything else leading up to it. I think she got Critics' Choice or Globe, one of those two. I think she only had one. But
She definitely
none of
got Globe.
yeah, Globe. I think that was it. But none
Hmm.
of the other majors leading up to it. So I'm so glad she got in. I think Daniel Craig missing and supporting actor is going to be a surprise for a lot of people, myself included. Although Jeremy Strong, I feel like him and Jeremy Strong were a coin flip, and it ended up going to Jeremy Strong. You got the Succession brothers in the supporting actor, which is going to look good for the Academy. Anybody
Yeah.
that watches, Succession is going to love that shit. Maybe they'll do a bit on stage together or something. That'd be great. If you're listening, Academy, make that happen. Those are my takeaways. I'm going to look at this a little more in depth. I'm going to probably next week start predicting winners and that kind of thing. But all in all, I will say, even though I knew Amelia Perez was going to rack up, but all in all, I would say they did pretty good with these nominees this morning. There's no glaring, like, giant snub. I mean, there's some that I'm surprised didn't get in, and I would have liked to have gotten in. But aside from Edward Berger and director, I don't know that there was like a oh my God, they snubbed him. Berger, I go, they snubbed him, because that's the second time in a row that one of his films has gotten just like rained down on, and then when it comes to director, he's not there, which I feel bad for that. But what are your biggest takeaways before we wrap up?
I think my biggest takeaway is that when Ariana Grande was announced as Glinda, I said she was going to kill it, and I feel very
Hmm.
vindicated today.
She did.
But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like you, where there were surprises, but nothing like I'm angry about. Like,
Right.
yeah, I would have liked to see Denzel Washington get in for supporting
Yeah.
actor as like #1 Gladiator 2 fan, but as like an objective person, I also understand that it's like, is his performance that good, or is he just carrying that movie that well?
Hmm.
And I say this as someone who saw that movie 6 times in theaters.
Hmm.
You know, like I don't,
Wow.
yeah, I don't. I need to just force myself to watch The Brutalist. I need to, you know, kind of fill in some of those gaps. But on the whole, like I've seen most of the vast majority of these movies, and again, it's nothing that I feel like any anger I'm gonna feel, or like towards snubs, is gonna happen in the wins more so than the nominations. Um,
Yeah.
and this is a year where I do think that it could go 100 different ways. There are very few categories that I think are shoe-ins. So it'll be interesting to see.
It will be. You know, and I've said this on previous streams in the last couple of weeks, but I'm just throwing a few comments for you to see what folks are saying over there. I will say that this is one of the more exciting years for the results, the eventual results for the Oscars,
Yeah.
because no matter how much myself and a bunch of friends of mine do these predictions and fill out these spreadsheets, I mean, I'm a sicko. You know, I do this shit for 3 months every year. We're still not going to know. Like, we're not going to know. Like, there's nobody knew that I'm Still
Mm-hmm.
Here was going to get in for Best Picture. You may have thought it
Mm-hmm.
might happen. You may have wished for it to happen, but nobody suspected that to happen. And I think that's going to translate to a lot of the winners too. I think you have some obvious ones that should win, like Culkin, like I don't even want to say Zoe Saldana because I feel like Grande and her could kind of end up, you know, depending what happens on the
Nothing would make me
if
happier.
I said that one of them because you know Saldana won the Globe, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, now what's going to happen? Grande is going to win Critics' Choice. Saldana is going to win SAG. Then Grande is going to win. You know what I mean? It's going to go like this. And then we're going to
Yeah.
be in a situation where they have equal wins leading into the Academy Awards, and you're just not going to know. It's going to be like a 51-49 vote, and who got the 51, you know? So
Yeah.
it's exciting. I mean, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, I don't know if there's any locks this year, right? With the exception of Culkin, right? Or am I crazy?
He's I think he's the yeah, I think he's the only one.
Is he the only one that's like guaranteed? Because director, we don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what else? Throw it up in the chat. Are there any like guaranteed wins? So we say it's probably Zoe, but like I said, if Ariana wins a couple of big awards on the way to the Academy, watch out. Um,
I'll be leading that campaign.
oh, this one's kind of a shoe-in. I think Demi Moore's narrative, you know, unless something crazy
Mm.
happens,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this would be a situation unless Demi Moore doesn't, if she loses to Mikey at like SAG, Critics' Choice, and she only has the Globe for comedy, then you could be looking at a situation where she might get upset by Mikey.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I would say she's probably the next closest thing to a lock, aside from right here, Karen Culkin. So, right? Because this is a two-headed race here. We don't really know. Everybody's going to tell you this, but guess what, guys? I've been saying Timmy for 2 months. So when he wins, you better come back here and sing a Bob Dylan song to me, okay? Because I'm telling you, this is my guy right here. Could I be wrong? Yes, but that's what I'm sticking with, and it
I
worked
hope you're
out for me
not.
on a couple other ones. Yeah, but it's going to be one of these two, I think. And Ray Fine could be sneaky too. Be careful with him too,
Wouldn't be
because
mad
if
about that
Conclave,
either.
yeah, if Conclave comes up in the kind of sneaky votes there, because if they love Conclave, he could leapfrog both of them and surprise everybody.
Yeah.
I'm really thrilled about Barbara. I mentioned that. Did you find out was it Complete Unknown 7 this morning? I think it was, right?
When I pulled it up, I couldn't find anything that had like the exact. Let
I
me
didn't
see
know if
if
anybody
I got.
I didn't know if anybody threw it up in the chat either, but I was seeing if a Complete Unknown got. I think it got 7, which is crazy.
Yeah, so it is confirmed that Amelia Perez got 13.
Corey says 8. I think he's talking about a Complete Unknown, which is even better. I think I predicted it to get 8, but I think it got one that I didn't think it was going to get, and it missed one that I thought it was going to get. But either way, that's a really good showing for a Complete Unknown.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
And I've been trying to tell people on the streams and stuff because everybody's like, 4 or 5. Nobody predicted Mangold because they didn't think they were going to do that to Berger again this year. I mean, it sucks they did, but they did. They did it to him again. Now, will they do it with his third film? That's when I'll really have to go.
What did he do?
Or yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, man. I guess it's better than what Diane Warren's been going through. I don't know. Let's see. Demi is leading currently, but Mikey is close. I agree. I think if Mikey, that's why I was saying, if Mikey can get like a couple prestigious awards, like your SAG or your CCA or both, then we're in for a like hell of a Oscars night, because the other alternative is that Demi Moore, in her narrative of being in Hollywood for nearly 50 years and never winning an award until the Globes, which, by the way, I didn't know till she said that in her speech, which floored me,
Hmm.
is you can't. I mean, who can beat that narrative? I mean, that narrative is impenetrable, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So Mikey would have to get some surprise wins. Now, I do think Mikey's going to win Critics' Choice. I still think that.
Yeah.
The critics loved Honora. I mean, all the critics groups. I think ours gave it to Conclave, but otherwise, or did Mikey win ours? I can't remember who won Best Actress for us.
I
It
think
may
she
have been
won
Demi
Best
Moore.
Actress.
Did she?
Or was it, hang on, live
It
fact
was one
check.
of the two. It was one of the
Please hold.
two. But in general, she's been winning across the country, the critic circles. So if Mikey wins Critics' Choice, that's almost to be expected. But then if she gets another one, I'm not saying Demi Moore's in trouble, but I'm saying it would be a really exciting Oscars night.
We gave it to Mikey Madison.
Okay, so yeah, there you go. I mean, she's been getting the critics groups everywhere. I mean, of course, Demi's won some, but when I looked at the overall precursors before the Globes, Demi Moore had 5, and Mikey Madison had like 30 wins. I'm talking about in critics groups. So the gap is huge in terms of the critics.
Yeah.
Did the narrative and did the Golden Globe win for Moore shift that a little bit to the Critics' Choice? Which, by the way, I think they've already done their voting.
Yeah.
But I do think Critics' Choice voting was open while the Globes were happening, I think. So they
Mm.
did see all that when they were casting their votes. So I think that's the first week of February. So we'll start to see some of this stuff kind of come into focus. But I think let me put it to you this way: with 23 or whatever categories it is, to me it's crazy that the only like definitive lock, or that we're saying a lock, is one award for
Yeah.
Kieran Culkin. That's the only one that most people are saying he's locked in. Because
Hmm.
even Demi Moore is being threatened depending on how Mikey performs over the next couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
It's
Well, and I
crazy.
think we have seen kind of this like influx within the Academy Awards where, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't I would have given it to Stephanie Shu for Everything Everywhere over her. I thought
Me too.
Stephanie was giving it much. The
Me
thing
too.
about it is Stephanie's this kind of newcomer, up and coming, and Jamie Lee's this established, like well loved legend of an actress. And so I think this kind of mirrors that, where Mikey Madison still, gave a great performance in Honora, don't get me wrong, but she's still kind of on the rise. Whereas Demi Moore's been here for 50 years, is saying
Hmm.
so.
Hmm.
I think ultimately it is going to go to Demi Moore, because
Yeah,
I don't know if there's this, and I think it's the same reason Timothée Chalamet still hasn't won an Oscar when he's deserved one. Of
I
like,
know.
I
I
think
know.
there's this look towards the younger actors of like, well, you have your time,
And I
like,
do think, to speak on Timothy real quick, I do think, and one of the reasons I'm keeping him at my number one, and I haven't really moved him even when Brody won the Globe, I do think it's a very, very, very like paper thin like difference between them. But one of the reasons I am leaving him there is because Brody has an Oscar, and they
mhm,
know that. And not only that, they gave Brody that Oscar when he was only like a year or two younger than Timothy is now.
mm,
So because he actually holds the record for the youngest recipient of the leading actor award. So they did it before with the guy that is Timothy's main competition. So I
yeah,
don't know that the youth or the age kind of strike against Timothy is going to play as large of a role in this year's race. Because if it was an elder actor that had never won an Academy Award, is like 70 years old or whatever, and that's Timothy's main competition, then that narrative is going to play into their votes. They're going to be like, we're not going to have another chance to give, Martin Landau, like when he won for Ed Wood. We're not going to have another chance to give
right,
this guy what he has deserved, for the majority of his career. And Timothy's going to keep acting for the next 40 years, But that's not necessarily the narrative this year because Brody has an Academy Award.
right,
So I'm leaving him at one until, if Brody continues to win and start sweeping, then I'll be like, yeah, it's not looking good for Timmy. But right now, I think it's anybody's race between the two of them. I really
yeah.
do.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and what Kevin has on the screen here is probably those are probably all pretty consensusly front runners in those categories. I think the only one that is quote unquote safe as we're sitting here right now though is Kieran Culkin.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, wouldn't you say? Yeah, I think all the
Yeah.
other ones have some pretty stiff competition. Somebody says Amelia Perez sweep. Wes, Wes, why you bringing that in here, dude? Oh my God. No, I love what you love, man. I like that. I'm happy for you because it got 13 noms and almost tied the record. Oh my God. I'm so happy for you and everybody that worked on the movie. I just didn't connect with me personally, but I'm happy for anybody else that's happy. Let's just put it that way. Oh, okay. Catherine thinks Wicked's in the mix for the top three. Okay.
It
I
would
mean,
thrill
okay.
me.
Yeah.
I I don't know. I'll be really curious to see how all this momentum for Wicked now translates to later in the year when the second movie comes out.
Hmm.
Um,
Which is
when
interesting timing, right? Because doesn't that come out in
yeah,
December? Or is it November
November.
again? It's
Um,
interesting timing.
yeah. If you follow me
Yeah.
on Threads, I'm doing a countdown to when we get to hear Jonathan
Ooh.
Bailey sing "As Long as You're Mine."
Ooh. Okay. I'll have to see
But
that. I put
yeah.
that on my countdown clock.
But it is interesting because when I saw it with my parents, my dad was very grumpy about the fact that it was being divided into two parts. He's like, I want to
I
see the whole
mean,
thing now. But when he got out, I told him, I was like, yeah, but they do such a good job that like it's so well attended to that I'm okay with it. And so we get out and he was like, yeah, no, I kind of get the two parts thing. He's like, I just don't get the gap between the two. And at the time I kind of agreed, but I thought about it. I'm like, no, see, I think if you tried to do two parts too close together, I think they're going to try to get this sort of awards momentum back, and I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off. So
yeah.
I'll just be curious to see like what the fact that Wicked did very well today, like what that's going to mean for next Oscars.
Right. Right. I just want to go to a couple more comments, then we can wrap up. Lex, thanks so much for doing this. Enrique says, "What are the snubs for you guys? For me, it's two challengers in score and quality in supporting actress." Um, yeah, snub is such a weird word. I didn't predict quality to get in, so I think her not getting in is not necessarily a snub, but
Mm-hmm.
it is definitely a welcome surprise that I wish I could have seen.
Yeah.
I think that Jamie Lee Curtis, as weird as it is, might be seen a little bit more of a snub in that category, just because
Mm.
she was heavily predicted in the last couple of weeks because of the campaign and because of her personally and what she's been doing out there and the Academy's history with her. Like you said earlier, her winning for a performance that really wasn't that great. I mean, the movie was great, and it was a Best Picture winner, which I think is why she ended up winning. Um, my huge snub, really the only like major snub for me personally, is Berger for director.
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
knew it was going to happen, but nonetheless, it's a snub that I predicted, and they definitely snubbed him because it's almost a mirror image of what happened to him for All Quiet on the Western Front. I mean, just like text galore, performances. I mean, just nominated for all this shit, score all this stuff, and then the director doesn't get a mention. Like I said, I predicted it, but I just think it's sad. I think it's weird.
Yeah.
Um, I'm glad Coralie didn't suffer for that because that would have also been a snub, and I would have
Yeah.
frankly been a little more pissed with that snub had it happened. What about you? Is there any snubs that really like jumped out to you?
I agree with challengers for score. I love the challengers score, and I think it's such an integral part of the movie. And that's what I love is when there's, a melding between the music as music and it plays in the movie. So I definitely agree on that. Again, I wasn't shocked by Margaret Qualley, but I really would have loved to see her there. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's none that like again, there's some like would have been nice to see, but there's nothing that I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's not like last year when Greta Gerwig didn't get in director. That like pissed me
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
now I'm just kind of like at most like, like
yeah.
yeah,
It's
I'm kind
it's
of with
weird.
you there.
It's weird that there weren't more like quote unquote obvious snubs.
Yeah.
But there were a couple subtle ones this morning, and I think Berger was the big one that I was just like, man, they did this to him again.
Yeah.
Somebody also mentioned, where is it? Yeah, right here. Somebody also mentioned Denis Villeneuve, which
Mm.
I mean that is absolutely a snub because that's the second time they did it to him too. as with the
Hmm.
first Dune as well. And in my opinion, Dune 2 was even more of a spectacle and more well put together.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I agree with that too. I didn't think there was any way it would happen though, so I don't know. I have trouble calling it a snub, but yeah, it really is. I mean, because he should easily be in that directorial lineup. I think. Um, you don't want? Do you want to tell them what we think? It's in all caps, so they might be a fan. I don't know.
I think if
Look.
you like it, you can like it,
Yeah,
you know?
please,
That's
please.
fine.
Like I said about 5 10 minutes ago. I'm happy for you guys. You know, if you're a fan of Amelia Perez, you won big this morning. You know, I'm happy for the production. I'm happy for a lot of people involved. Zoe Saldana's performance was great. El Mal, the song that's probably going to win, was great. You know, the film on a whole, I'm not rushing to rewatch. It just didn't connect with me, but it's loved in the industry. I mean, people love it. 13 nominations, easily the most noms this morning. Could get quite a few wins too. So, you know, oh yeah, Daniel Craig was another big one. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel Craig was another big one for Jeremy Strong. I thought they were interchangeable, but I also thought Craig had plenty to get into the five.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to miss. I thought it was possible, but I didn't think he was going to miss. But that is a snub. I agree with that because that's one of the ones where everybody was like, he's in, you know, and then of course
Yeah.
he's not. So
And I will say, if there is one, I was wanting to see Marianne Jean Baptiste.
yeah, she just
The
missed too much. I don't know why
She
she kept
did.
missing.
Well,
Yeah.
and Mike Lee, like, I don't know. If you weren't gonna nominate David Thewlis for Naked, you were never gonna nominate someone for a Mike Lee film.
We're safe, by the way. She she hates it too.
Oh good. Oh good.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I love Mike Lee. And I don't think, I mean, this sounds so pretentious of me to say, and I don't mean it this way, but like Hard Truths is a movie that's gonna do better overseas
Oh yeah.
because I mean, I feel like Mike Lee's just better received there.
Hmm.
But I did. TV Glow, yeah. When I
Hmm.
first saw I saw the
And
TV Glow, I thought, I was like, this is an Oscar shoo-in,
that's
and
it.
I feel like it lost its momentum so quickly.
And and the trans representation in that film is so much more personal and
Yeah.
intimate, and like you feel it with the characters involved. That last scene of the birthday party. I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't stopped thinking about that since I saw it. You know,
Yeah.
and Amelia Perez, I couldn't tell you anything other than the stupid penis to vagina thing that they do. I mean, nothing stuck with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, and not only that, I was also going to mention Will and Harper, which was also a snub in documentary, right? Or did it make it in?
Mm.
Hold on, I can't
Yeah, that
remember
was a sweet one.
because that's another great trans story that's real. Yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't make it in. So that could also be considered a snub, and that would have been a beautiful way to honor the trans community as well, because that's a real story. You know, Amelia Perez kind of sucked up all of that love for that community, but I just wish I'd enjoyed it more. Frankly, is really what it
Yeah.
comes down to. But I am happy that it's putting a spotlight on that community for sure. You know, and I think that it serves an important purpose because of that.
Yeah.
Um, Guys, thank you so much for the chat. I, believe it or not, got to get to work in a little bit. I had to take off for this because could you imagine me working right now? with all this going on? I'd probably be doing this stream in my car. Anybody watching, please sub to the channel. I'm going to be doing all kinds of Oscar material the next like month or so leading up to the Academy Awards. I'm going to do a live reaction for the Academy Awards. Early next week, I'll probably put out my ranking of the Best Picture nominees. So I'll 10 to 1. I'll tell you how I think these stack up, my personal opinion, who I think is going to win, that kind of thing. All kinds of stuff. Lex, tell them where they can find you. We're in the same critics group, but she has a great podcast as well, Culture Cabinet. Just tell them where they can find it real quick. I'll throw it in the
Yeah.
chat too.
So you can find my writing on culturecabinet.com, and then I am on Instagram and Threads at Lex Willie. It's in my little WILLI_. And that's kind of all
Yeah, it is.
where I am right now. So
Lex, really thanks for, this is the second, I think, or third, I can't remember, second year in a row, I think, that we've gone through these nominations after they're announced. And it wasn't as crazy as last year because, you know, last year, talking about snubs, it was like every other category somebody got snubbed last year.
yeah.
But I'm excited. I think this is going to be a very unpredictable year for wins. I really do. I think there's a lot of categories that are 2 or 3 people in the mix. You know, with the exception of Culkin, like we said, you don't really know yet. Now, that might change as we get a little closer with these other awards start handing out gold. But right now, it's an exciting time as a pundit because you just don't, I mean, you really don't know. I mean, you might think you know, but you do not know. And we got proved that by a couple of categories this morning. So, Lex, I'm going to end the stream. You're the best. Guys, please sub and stay tuned for a lot more Oscars coverage in the coming weeks. Lex, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I had fun.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next time in the garage.